If you guys don't know me, my name is Eric. Tim and I are kind of partners in this wild endeavor. And
yeah, no one else wanted to do it, so we got sucked in, and then we brought Chris in. Norb, also, who's, where are you, Norb?
Norb's over there. He's our board representative from Frozen Codebase.
As are you now.
As I guess I am too now that I
Chris
look
from
there.
Human Head, and myself from Big Rooster, and then we also have Matt Forbeck, who's in Sweden or Italy or something.
Is he right now?
Something like that, who's a freelance writer who's also on our board locally. So we've been the ones putting together these meetings. Unfortunately, Rocky Rococo kind of threw us a curveball at the last minute. Hers gracefully stepped in and gave us a place and food and drinks. So we're very grateful and happy to have the use of their facility tonight. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a series of talks tonight about local studios, some of the history and experiences of those studios. We're going to start with myself, since I've been told we're the youngest, so we're going from youngest to oldest. Big Rooster first, then Frozen Codebase, and then following up with Chris Reinhardt at Human Head. So without further ado, I'm just going to go into it. I am Tim Garrett with Big Rooster. This is our new revamped and sexified website, which went live about a month ago. We relaunched ourselves. We're kind of Big Rooster 2.0, which is kind of what I'm going to go into tonight. I'll leave it up for the other guys. Would you be so kind as to hit F5 for me? Sure. All right. So they've come to snuff the rooster. We've had a wild and tumultuous year as Big Rooster. So what I want to talk about tonight for my talk was kind of the history of Big Rooster, where we got where we are, what the hell happened to us, some of our experiences, why we are who we are, and what we've done. So without further ado, so who the hell are we? It's a saga of one rooster's dream. It's about love, war, passion, honor, and a few blue turtle shells, which Eric.
Yeah, I received most of those.
If you've read our new update, you are figured prominently in our Ode to the Throwdown.
That's right.
So where do I begin? So it's all about me, right? So I'm the one here talking about Big Rooster, and I'm one of the guys who put it together. So I'll go into a little history of what's going on there. I used to work about Thanksgiving 2006. I used to work for Human Head. I was chairman and CEO of there. Chris was one of my partners of 7 partners at the time. And I left. The hell was I thinking, right? We just finished shipping our most successful game. Just moved into a brand new cool office that didn't have sprinklers, but does now. You know, it was very sad. Hey, Matt is here. You're not in Europe.
That other
Matt being our other member of So decided to leave. So what the hell was I thinking, right? We just did Prey. It was fantastic success. Company had been bigger than it ever was in its history. But the thing is I don't know, I just wasn't happy. It's hard for me to even explain now. You know, I told the guys at the time, look, I just want to do new things. I wanted new challenges. I want to get back into the creative side of development. I've been more and more on the business side, and I wanted to do more of the design side of things. I also wanted to do new kinds of products. I just didn't think my partners were into some of the stuff I wanted to get into. I was getting older. I had kids. Wanted to do different types of stuff. And it just was time to move on, kind of like, you know, in a rock band, when somebody just has to go do solo for a while. That was kind of where I was at. So fast forward a little bit, Rowan Atala was an art lead over there, and Jeff DeWitt, who was the animation lead over there, had both left a couple weeks before, well, actually a couple months, and I forget who left first, but they left before I did, and they started putting together something. They called me up and said, hey, do you want to get together? And we don't really know what the hell we're doing yet, but we want to do something. And I said, well, you know, don't know what I'm doing yet, but let's get together and I'll help you guys out however I can. Another guy named Jason Bohoviak, who was the lead programmer over at Midway on Stranglehold and PsyOps. He had written the PsyOps engine. He also had been a friend of Rowan's going way, way, way back, all the way through to high school. So we all decided to get together. So beginning of 2007, we established a small office down in Fitchburg and began looking for work. And our company goals at the beginning, high quality of life. We all were older. We all were either married or had kids or some combination thereof. and we wanted to balance work life and home life. When, back in the early days ahead, I slept under my desk a few nights. I had done that at previous places I'd worked. I'd worked for Sega, I worked for Dynamics, worked for FASA, and pulling all-nighters was kind of a staple. And I'm getting too old for that crap. So I wanted to put together an office where we created an environment that fosters both home life and work life. We wanted to allow people to feel like their company is supporting them and growing them and allowing them to hone their craft. The other big tenet was high quality production, proper management. We're sick and tired of doing projects where our eyes were bigger than our head and we just threw everything at the wall and said, damn it, we're going to do all of it, and then at the end got stuck. So we wanted to properly manage, properly give estimates, and combine experience and planning to create doable projects on realistic schedules, which everybody says they're going to do, but we were serious. We wanted to do that. Still, I wasn't really fully committed yet. I wasn't fully part of the company. I was committed as far as it went, but I wasn't 100% on board yet. I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't have a decision, so I helped Big Rooster grow it at the start. I actually had received some pretty cool and some surprising job offers, but they were all elsewhere, and I kind of wanted to stick around Madison. I got kids here, I got family here. I just didn't want to run away to some other further climb. So I wanted to help build the Madison development scene, because that was one of the reasons I came here in the first place about 10 years ago. So, first project, Big Rooster came, we became registered PlayStation 3, registered Xbox 360, registered Wii, registered DS developers. Went out and did a big whirlwind trip, rented a car. Rowan Natalin, one of my partners, and I drove around the West for about a month. Had some really bizarre experiences that were a lot of fun, and eventually talked to Capcom, who said, hey, we got this game called Talisman, it's really cool, would you like to do it? I knew the game, it was based on a Games Workshop license. It's deceptively simple, as Matt can probably tell you as a board game designer. It looks really simple. It's really, really not. And so we dived into it. It was a huge undertaking. Talisman had enormous content requirements. It's a well-known property with a large fan base, and they're merciless. It's multi-platform development on a short schedule. We wanted to do the game in 8 months on 3 platforms, PC, PlayStation 3, and 360. We were using an engine that Jason Bohoviak had started making himself, which is called the Atlas engine. It was proprietary, but it was a new engine, didn't have much of a tool base, so we were pretty much using Maya as a tool set. And we needed to get staff, because we were still 4 of us. So we started hiring, and I saw a real chance to put our goals into motion. So we made some excellent hires. We brought people in from Raven and BioWare and Midway, a couple of the heads, and new talent both locally and nationally. We hired the service a guy named Mark Nelson, who, if you saw him speak a couple of meetings ago, the freelance artist who came in and showed some of his portfolio. He worked for us all of last summer, and that was a lot of fun. And we also had a few people who kind of came in and used us as a bargaining chip. We discovered that not everybody calls you and says, hey, I want a job. We've been friends for a while. I'm not happy where I'm at, are really serious. We had a couple of people come to us and say, hey, I'd like a job. And then when we said, well, all right, come look at what we got and see what you think. And then they came in, we showed them what we had. And then they went back to their old employer and said, hey, they offered me a job, what can I get? So that wasn't a very cool experience, especially when you got people that, who were you thought were friends. So we learned a few things along the way there. But we established our company core culture through this. We had the Throwdown, which is our daily gaming session. At the end of the day, before you go home, we don't really have core hours. We don't really do a 9-to-5 grind, but that's kind of where we compress it. We want people working during the day and go home at night. So we bring people in during the day, and around 5:30, we have Throwdown. We play Mario Kart, we play Team Fortress, we have a rock band. Our rock band is called the Unicorn Friends, which, we got as far as we can. So, if you can sing real well, you might have a job with us. So we got a certain point to get through there. We work hard during the day and have a life at night. We're still small. We're still understaffed for the amount of work we have. We hope to get over that. But those are the times we throw in the plates. Oh, and I finally committed to the company at that point. So I figured, you know what, we got this going. I get to finally put what I want to do into actual practice. So I said, all right, and I'm on board for a minute. So we saw content as a big red flag for Talisman. There were 67 fully animated, fully articulated characters, creatures, monsters in this game. That doesn't count the board, the objects. There were hundreds of objects in this game. We looked going, what the hell? I said hell. 6 months, basically from nothing, we had a fully playable game. Here's, I think, 45 of those 67 fully articulated animated characters. This is part of the practice we wanted to put into place in management. Doing, as any of these guys could tell you, doing that many characters fully animated in that period of time is nuts. But we didn't want to kill our guys. You know, we said, look, we want to work during the day, have people leave at night, and we believe through proper planning, through really solidly planning how we're going to pull this off, our guys were working, 9 to 5, 8 to 4. Some guys would come in a little later, stay a little later. But nobody was killing themselves, and we got them all done. So that was awesome. We felt really good about that. We had a fully playable game. And so this is kind of where it got. These are some of the characters in the game in a little more detail. The board on the upper left. It is a board game. If you're not familiar with Talisman, it's kind of like Monopoly and Dungeons and Dragons had a baby, and that's how it plays. With a lot more characters and a lot of weirdness along the way. And a lot of rules that just sort of pop up on the board that we actually had to think through. Like the board would say, hey, a dragon attacks you, and we actually had to make a dragon, which made it a little harder. But then there's the downside. There's the calls that every developer dreads. Hey, we'd like you to meet our new and largely green management team. What are you working on again? Tell us something. Yeah, that was fun. You have a team that's excited about the product. Halfway through the product, they leave. A new team comes in and they're like, what the hell is this? Why are we doing this game? Hey, we want to change the product a little bit. Actually, quite a bit. It's not going to affect your budget. It's not going to affect your schedule. And the licensor is going to love it because this was a licensed property. They hadn't even told the licensor yet, but hey, they were going to love it. Meanwhile, we're actually talking to the licensor. We had flown out to England and met him in person. We had a really good relationship with them, and they were telling us, no, we don't love this. So we were caught between a rock and a hard place. Then we had we're not sure this project really fits our new goals. See, the problem with Talisman is, as a board game, it's a 3-hour board game. It takes forever to play it. We got that down to about an hour, but they wanted 5-minute experiences. Their new plan was 5 minutes in, 5 minutes out, move on. And there's no way in hell Talisman could be a 5-minute game. So other problems, they didn't give us our SDKs, which are the big honking pieces of hardware that pretend to be PlayStation 3s and Xbox 360s, so you can actually code to them, until about 3 months into the 6 months that we had been working on it. And some of our new hires took longer to get there, and because of all this, alpha went late. So then we got the call every developer really dreads, which is we're not really gonna go forward with this, so we're gonna kill it. So that was a sucky day. They came to snuff the roost. So Thanksgiving 2007, full year's gone by. We hadn't landed our next contract yet. We were negotiating with a ton of different people, but this stuff takes time. It takes anywhere from 3 months to up to a year, Chris. It takes a long time, even when everyone agrees. We laid everybody off, and Big Rooster was dead. Done. We're completely out of business. But wait, there's more. Nobody would leave. I came in the next day because Capcom was sending in people, and we're like doing inventory, figuring out what we're going to do with the furniture and how to sell it, and everybody came in, which was kind of humbling. It was like, it's like, no, we're not paying you. And they're like, yeah, I know. But it was cool. Like, what do you want us to work on? And so it was a really dark time. I mean, Jeff called it probably the worst day in his life from one of my partners. And we knew we had created something pretty cool, as everybody was still willing to work. Then all of a sudden, new projects came available. And we were back up and running in 3 days. We were officially dead for 3 days. So then we built Rooster 2.0. Bigger, better, stronger, faster. It's got cool new bionic powers. We have a few changes. Jason's gone. He's freelancing now. Wasn't really working out in the partnership, so we decided to part ways. Brought in a new guy, which I'll get into later. We focus on content creation and rebuilding ourselves financially. We went from dead to how are we going to pay these guys who won't leave. So we worked out a plan with everybody, and we brought in a few new partners. Started working with Gearbox, which I'll show you what we're working on with them. You probably all know who they are. Blockade, which is a Hollywood company, which I'll get into in a little bit. A company called Elephant, which is kind of a new distributor publisher, which I heard today got bought by THQ, so they're now an old distributor publisher. And Fantasy Flight Games up in Minneapolis. So we're working with these guys, amongst others, who we can't really talk about yet. So where are we now? We're working on 2 major games as contractors, 2 AAA development games. People called us in to fix their messes, which was kind of cool because we had a very veteran team. Most of our people had a fair amount of experience. And UT is an incredibly complex piece of software, and a lot of our guys have Unreal experience, so that made us suddenly very attractive. Working on 2 downloadable games for ourselves. Those have just really gotten underway now. We'll actually be self-publishing those, which is scary as hell, but cool. We're working with Blockade Entertainment to create a number of animated television series. They came to us and said, hey, if we want to take game content and convert it and make it into a TV show, how would we do that? And we spent about a week doing that. And I said, well, what the hell, why don't we just give you guys the pilots and have you work on them? And so now we're actually working on a couple of different series, which is very cool. Starting our own original AAA IP. So we got a few things on our plate. And we're expanding like crazy. We just moved into a new Fitchburg office, literally across the street from our old Fitchburg office. We needed more space, and we're part of the Fitchburg Technology Campus, and they gave us expansion space so we can more than double our space. We just opened an Austin, Texas technology office. So that's the big unknown. This is the first time I'm publicly stating that. So that's really cool and scary for us. So we're now a 2-office company. Not bad for being dead 4 months ago. This is a big game we're working on for Gearbox. If you saw this was last month's Game Informer cover. We did the shaders for this guy. You may have heard of this property. This is some of the screenshots of stuff we did. A lot of the screenshots in there featured some of the stuff that we did. We're doing shader work, we're doing level work, we're doing objects and environment, we're doing animation, character work. And we just moved into a new office, which is up here. And this is our crazy cast and crew of people on our cool new sign. So, we're at 12 and expanding. We're looking to go up to 40 before the end of the year. We're probably going to need more people than that for all the stuff that we got planned. And suddenly we got more work than we know what to do with, which is very cool. So we didn't die. We pulled together. Made everybody some hopefully lucrative deals in terms of what they get to work on now. We've got a new technology director, Paul Masters, who started with me at Dynamics back in 1992, the week before I did. So I've known him forever. Real good guy. He's heading up our Austin office. And the rest of our crazy people. Jason, who's sitting over there with his ubiquitous coffee cup.
That's right.
We're right next to Ancora Coffee, so our guys are feeding their addiction pretty regularly out there. So, and myself, Jeff, and Rowan, the original partners. One more thing I wanted to show, just to give everybody kind of a sneak peek. We never got Show Talisman, so I brought in a little quick movie. There's no sound or anything, it's just some of the visuals from our pre-alpha build. It's only a couple minutes long, so I want to show you some of that. No, I'm good. So, it's the first time I've shown this publicly anywhere, and I literally just grabbed it off our box today, so I didn't edit or anything. This is just raw machine playing itself. This is a 4-player game, full AI, running on a PC. Although we had it running on 360. We had it running on PS3, but not nearly as nicely. So that was our furthest behind version. So as you can see, it's like a big Monopoly board, and you roll dice, and your guys walk around, and they have fights, and they go into caves, and go into villages, and get turned into toads, which is a lot of fun. So we still had a long way to go. We hadn't done our polish pass yet. So there was sound in there, but it was basic, and a lot of the particle effects were still fairly basic. We had some cleanup to do on the interface, but the core game was there. You could play all the way from beginning to end. If you've ever played the board game, you can play all the way from beginning to the center of the board, up to 4 players. And you could play over Steam, was our PC platform. You could play multiplayer over Steam. Usually crashed after 12 turns, but but you could play that long. Look good for the publishers. And this is as far as it will ever go. Capcom's talked about maybe giving it to another publisher, but they haven't said yet. They're a Japanese company, so once they make a decision, it's very hard for them to change. So I talked to them a couple weeks ago, and they still were not 100% sure what they were going to do with the property. And this is the Atlas engine. There's probably 450,000 polys in that map, not counting the characters. Fair number of particle effects, ambient occlusion. So I mean, did some neat stuff, and it would have been cool to actually have it see the light of day. And Eric did the cards.
Yes.
So, props to Eric. So, all right. So let me kill that. And I promised everybody they could do that. So do this on our website. This is our new website. You can check out the history of the Throwdown. We have something called Inside the Studio, which every 2 weeks we do a report about our studio and what's going on with it. Some of the things that we do, some of the people we have, new things that are going on. We are hiring, so we're hiring artists, level designers, animators, and programmers. But level designers and animators are kind of our top priority right now. And without further ado, I will hand it over to Ben Geisler of Frozen Codebase, who is right there.
PowerPoint up there too. Yeah. I could talk about the website a bit.
In front of the desktop, Ben.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, just I'll let you know.
In front of the desktop, so.
Oh, it's also, all right.
PowerPoint, yeah.
All right, so I'm Ben Geisler, CEO, managing partner of Frozen Codebase. We've been giving a lot of talks at Madison, IGDA, so you guys probably have heard of us. We started in July of 2006, and I'll get into a little bit in my PowerPoint. I'm going to my structure of my little talk is a little different than Tim's, so I'm just going to get right into it. And let's see, can you hit just hit show on the just hit through slideshow at the top. All right, so Frozen Codebase. We're in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We formed with essentially 2 ex-members of 3 basically really talented students that I picked up out of University of Wisconsin Green Bay, and then 2 out of IGDA Tech in Green Bay. And that was the 6 founders. So the big news today is that, can you hit something here? I'm really excited to announce our, and this is something that I thank Tim and Chris and Brian Raffle at Raven for letting me announce today, is our partnership with EA. And can you go and click the whole, in fact, EA Wisconsin, which will be formed. I'm glad you guys let me announce this. Can you go forward?
Yeah, we should have had you go first, actually.
Yeah. So there's been a hostile takeover. Basically, all our studios will be taken over by EA. Right next to the Fond du Lac County Fairgrounds. Could you go for it? Also, in a totally unrelated move, the CFO of Nabisco has resigned, citing moral reasons. And the CFO of EA has resigned, citing a difference of opinions. He never really liked Brett Favre anyway. And we're going to be located in a new great new facility. Also, Raven has built a giant bunny on Bascom Hill and populated with a bunch of Swedish engine programmers. Totally unrelated, but they're the only other studio around, and they're not independent, so they're have nothing to do with EA, so they built a bunny. And it's April Fool's Day, so go for it. If anyone was fooled ever, that's so for real now. We're Frozen Codebase. We like Camaros. The reason we did this is someday we're all going to buy Camaros and park them on the grass next to the sheds that are behind Frozen Codebase. And we'll most likely hire that guy. Go for it, please. Other stuff, just to give you some things about that, we really like PBR. 75 cents across the street at Lenny's for a pint. Although I hear that that's only on Tuesdays, but I claim that it's every day of the week. So, oh, this isn't the right one. God damn it, Ramones. Okay, fine. We can put the. Wait, skip one. I might have fixed it on the next slide. No, go back. You're ruining it. All right. Screw the Ramones. We like Night Ranger because we like the rock and the roll, not just the rock. So that Ramones thing, forget you saw that. That was forget that ever happened. It's more about Sister Christian, and I mean, kick those guys. Anyway, go ahead. So that's us. And for really real, we make video games. We ship Screwjumper. I am pleased to announce that it has a higher approval rating than President Bush. Mission accomplished. We're also going to be working on Screwjumper ports for roughly as long as the Iraq War has lasted. So that is, anyway, go ahead, go to the next. But it's okay, so seriously, that in all realness now, whatever that means, Screwjumper didn't do very well, and I mean, the ratings or the reviews weren't that great. I want to just kind of take a moment to talk about why we still consider it a success. And it was a success for us. The real reasons it's a success will never be understood by the average gamer on the street. Although I'll get into, we do have our certain fans, and we'll get into that in a bit. But seriously, what did it do for us? It really brought us together as a team. We were 6 people that initially started Screwjumper. Norb Rosick up there in the back. It was his idea, and on day 1 of the studio, we decided his other idea was pretty stupid. So, sorry. And he came up with another idea, which was better. And a lot of people in the industry that I know, because I used to work at Radical Entertainment and learned a lot out there. And I talked to one of my buddies, a game designer of, not that I would happen to be wearing the sweatshirt of such game, but he's like, "Oh, Screwjumper, this is great. It's compelling. You're falling down a shaft and you're destroying things on the way down, and it's like a race with rocket boots kind of thing." And everyone really liked it. So it brought us together. We're 6 people in basically a cinder block room on the west side of Green Bay. There wasn't carpeting. It was just, it was ghetto. There were mice. Norb writes about it quite often on our webpage. Well, not quite. I guess you did once, but people keep asking me the next time he's going to write a mouse story. So I guess. But anyway.
Those times where I move my desk and poops on it again, I will write another mouse story.
So even though it's not selling that well, and it reviewed pretty poorly, although I don't know, probably still did better than Daikatana or something, but the truth is that it really brought us together. Shipping a 360 game is just brutal. It's the cert testing that Microsoft does is just crazy, and it even was more than what I was used to doing Xbox games at Raven and at Radical, which those were also brutal in their own sense. But now with the technology of the 360, with invites and various methods of ranking for arbitration and statistics, there's just so many more complexities to certification. And if you get through it, even if you have a game rankings of 45%, well, it's not enough just to tell some publisher that you're higher approval rating than Bush. The main thing is that they know that you got through it. And, I've even had people for example, we talk to just probably quite like these guys do over here. We pretty much talk to any publisher we can. And people are like, "Oh, played that. It was a good game," and we're always happy to hear that. But really, the real reason they want to keep talking to us is because we did just that. We shipped a game together on the 360. We didn't just make like a shareware PC game. Although that says a lot as well. But we got through all that, and so that gave us the street cred, and that's why we consider it a success. The other thing is that the competition out there to get onto the 360 Xbox Live Arcade service is really brutal. It's really competitive. And I mean, we had numerous trips out to Seattle. Well, not numerous, I guess we had 2, but to try to get it signed, and many trips to other publishers once we didn't get it signed, and Norb did a whole postmortem on Screwjumper last time, so I'm not going to bore you with the details, but the truth is it's very hard now to get something on that service. So that's why we consider it a success. We kind of got our foot in the door. Choose the next one, please. So that's great, but obviously there's always giving you guys the time. Obviously, I just started preparing this thing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so kind of all over the place. But to give you guys kind of a sense of where I'm going with this, we're 6 people making Screwjumper, and at the time that we signed that up, we also signed up a game called Elements of Destruction, which is just about to come out, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But it kind of the point of this talk, other than to talk about Night Ranger, is what happened between being 6 people and where we're at now of 23, and where along the way what were the difficulties we had on Screwjumper, and how does that translate to what we're doing now, and how have we changed? What really happened to get, I think, to what happened with Screwjumper is, and of course in development everyone always is pointing the fingers at the publisher or this and that, and the publisher's pointing fingers at the developer or whatever, but we really feel, that said, I'm just going to go ahead and start pointing fingers. We basically feel there was a huge case of feature creep on this project. Since we were new, we really had no way of saying, we didn't have that street cred yet of saying, no, we know better. Screw you guys, we know what we're doing, let us do it our way kind of thing. And that meant that expectations kept going one notch up, especially as the Xbox Live Arcade market got more and more competitive. So feature creep was huge, unmanageable expectations from the publisher were huge, and our target of what this game should be kept moving and moving and moving. The biggest example I can cite is there was never supposed to be a whole feature in that was a crucial feature for the shipped Xbox Live Arcade version. That's Dynamite. I mean, it's one of the core things you do. That was never supposed to be in there. It was just like a guy at the publisher decided he wanted to be able to throw dynamite, so it ends up in the game, and that totally shifted our focus and caused us to spend a lot of time on it. Also, Split Screen took about 3 months to get working on the Torque game engine. The Torque game engine was never made to support split screen. I think we're the only product that's ever shipped with split screen after much hair pulling out of our engine programmers. And Garage Games is even amazed we even tried to do it, because they're like, yeah, you guys are nuts, But we were required to do it, and now you can go and ask anyone if they've even played. I challenge anyone to actually tell me they've played split. I don't know. Has anyone played split other than developers played split screen on? So it was kind of silly, and that's really that added a lot of time to our pipeline. Didn't really let us get time to polish. So. Go ahead and. However, all of that said, for every game there's a fan, and this is not a very politically correct talk. Gay Gamers loves Screwjumper, and they have requested multiple interviews. I'm dead serious. They just love it. But so there are fans, and there's some people that are still playing. But more importantly, so we got our little niche market or whatnot, but we obviously, my whole take on being in entertainment is that you want the largest audience possible. And so we said, well, our original vision was probably more mass appeal than what got shipped. And so we got the chance to go on to instant action through Garage Games, because we've got this, we got the engine from them. We used Torque Shader engine, which was the old Marble Blast Ultra engine. And they were like, well, oh, that's great. You shipped on Xbox Live Arcade. We like you guys. We want you to come on to our new system. Instant action is basically like a Steam sort of replacement. Except it's all in a browser. It's all in a browser window. It's all in Firefox or IE, and it's all 3D. So it's like Steam, except running in a browser window. And they're like, well, we need some products on instant action. And so we said, great. And they were like, we'll fund you to make this game to be your vision. Only caveat was we had 1 month to do it. So in that month, we totally changed it as much as we could. The gameplay, the art is still the same. But we changed the gameplay. We got rid of certain things. We actually made some new levels that more fit what we think the style is. We removed an entire game mode. And that's due out roughly next Wednesday on Instant Action for the beta. So definitely check it out and let me know what you think. So that's Screwjumper. That's the past, and time to move on. And what's next? Speaking of that, so at the same time we signed Screwjumper. Norb gave the postmark. I'll give kind of the high-level synopsis is that we wanted to do that game independently, and we've always wanted to do all our games independently if we could. We initially started we were venture capital funded, and for a reason, because we felt that Xbox Live Arcade provided us a way to do games independently without a publisher. We got most of Screwjumper done, and then they said, well, no, you have to go and find a publisher. So we went and found a publisher, but at the same time, the publisher we found said, well, we also have this game called Elements of Destruction that we want to have done. And we're like, great, okay, we'll do both for you. And I kind of brokered a 2-for-1 deal. And Elements of Destruction was really what turned us from one team into 2 teams. So we took our initial 6 and split them up. Basically, well, actually 4 stayed on the Screwjumper team. 2 went over to Elements of Destruction and started forming a whole brand new XBLA team. And that's essentially Team 2. And that'll be coming out very soon. I don't have a launch date yet, but it's in certification testing now. And we expect to hopefully get the thumbs up any time now, knock on wood. This is just some IGN. IGN did a preview on it. Seemed to like it. We sent them the game, and they did a preview and talked about what they liked about it. It's a game where you essentially play the forces of nature. You play like the tornadoes or lightning storms and hurricanes, and you destroy towns, and you get more and more money the more stuff you destroy in the town. It's kind of like SimCity turned on its head. So it's more stuff. There's a tornado destroying a town there. These are kind of older screenshots, I think, but go ahead. There's another shot of a tornado, and there's actually a lot of not to dip too far into game design, but I'm like Tim in the sense that I really enjoy that part of it. And just to point out it, obviously one of the questions is going to be, well, what the heck do you do? That's great, you destroy a town. What's the opposition? It turns out the corporation that the mad scientist who's controlling all the weather, they're after him. They don't want him using their technology to destroy all these towns. So they start installing enemies, and this is one of the stationary earthquake stompers that actually destroys your earthquake's ability to stomp out. And there's tanks that swirl around and shoot at you, and you actually take damage. So we're 3 teams now. That's kind of how we turned into 2 teams, and that game will be coming out very soon. These are our team names. Very first time as I said, this is not I hope there's no kids here. There's nothing politically correct about this talk. And if there was, I would be owned by a publisher. But anyway, 23 developers across 4 projects. We've got Team Evil Manatee. These are all team chosen names, which is now working with Sierra Online, and that's a 7-member team. That is the former Screwjumper team, and we supplanted it with some people from, various other places. We hired some new people from various developers. My classic strategy is, put an ad on Gamma Sutra and see what you get kind of thing. And we've been doing that classically throughout and just getting people in that we really click with, that fit the culture and are also really talented. So the Evil Manatee team is probably, I guess it's 3 members from the former Screwjumper and then a bunch of new people. Not new anymore because now it's been like a year or so almost. Team Fuckstorm, that is the former Elements of Destruction team. That game is pretty much wrapped up now. You know, we're sitting around waiting to hear from Microsoft, and that's the game we did with THQ. So in the parentheses here, I'm noting that who we're working for. And I say Microsoft because we're going direct to Microsoft on that one. We got approval to do it and funding to do it. I can't say a thing about what that project is because it's way early on. We're in pre-production. But we have 9 members on that one, so and that's actually we're hiring right now artists, and that's kind of our final staff size. It might end up being 10, but probably 9 or 10. And the reason I put Microsoft on that is that's a direct one. We have Team Chuck Norris. I can't tell you who we're working for on that one. It is a publisher though, but I can't even say which publisher it is. It's a major publisher. It's a small team though, and it's only 3 members. The other thing I will say on this same slide is that it's pretty easy to figure out what that 3-member team is because we have we're doing Xbox 360, Wii, and PC. So obviously the top 2 are most likely, you could imagine, either PC or Xbox 360, but we also have a Wii product that's in development, WiiWare to be specific. There's a 4th project that's listed up there, but not on this slide at all, and that's essentially because it's something that we're kind of slow burning, and there's most likely that will be a project that's taken on at a slower rate by one of the other existing teams. So that's who we are. That's what we're doing now. You know, from the 6 people in the bunker. You know, we moved on up now. Now we're in a former vegetable factory, so it's really awesome. It's actually nicer. We have like old elevator shafts that our designers sit in and stuff. But anyway, yeah, next. I'm sorry, Matt. So our focus, what we're doing now, and this has been our focus mainly throughout, is online console games, and really more specifically short play. You know, you could say online short play games. I like the word short play better than casual because, to me, like Screwjumper, and also in a good sense, also for the most part, Elements of Destruction isn't really a casual game. What I call a casual game. I mean, you're going and destroying towns. It's not like Peggle or something. You know, it's not like a Minesweeper type thing. I mean, it's fully 3D. There's a lot of destruction. So I really want to say casual. Vivendi has been calling it short play, and I kind of tend to like that term. So I'm saying, you know, basically online console games, we do a lot of XBLA stuff. We do a lot of WiiWare. We are approved now to do stuff on the PS3. We don't actually have any in-house, to be totally honest. We have a full complement of Xbox 360 tools, and we have some Wii tools, but for Sony, we're just starting to explore that. Another thing we do a lot is short play PC games. Mostly that's been like instant action, but we're looking at doing other stuff as well. Another thing people always ask me is, well, that's great, but do you intend to someday get your stuff sold at Target or Walmart or whatnot? And the answer is yeah. I mean, we do eventually intend to do that. Although I think the future is clearly in online distribution, that's probably 10 years off from actually being something that's going to take over on the shelf sales. I mean, and that's just my philosophy on it. I mean, if you look at iTunes, that's kind of clearly proving that there's a future in online sales of media. So we do intend to ramp up into AAA in the meantime, since we're not clearly at a stage where all Xbox 360 sales are going through XBLA. Who knows when that's going to happen? We could sit here and predict it all day. But really, we definitely want to ramp up into bigger scale projects. So we're looking at doing that, but only as it makes sense. That's why we're doing online console stuff first, to get our feet wet, to really, you know, become the best possible game team we can, and to still have fun doing it. If we want to try to do AAA right now, crunch would be pretty unbearable. We've got this thing where we say we will not work weekends, and I can guarantee you would have to break that company rule right away and start working weekends. So when I agreed to give this, Eric had told me, who, by the way, I should announce Eric's our new assistant producer as of 2 months ago.
Yep. Thanks.
Been great to have him, and it's cool. It kind of further solidifies the Green Bay Madison connection in terms of game development. Yeah, exactly. I'm saying we should have these in Rosendale or something. That's probably a bad idea. Fond du Lac, that's where EA is doing that.
Our new EA headquarters.
So it's hard times right now, in my impression, and I wanted to speak a little bit about that because when Eric first asked me to do this, he's like, well, it should be about the trials, tribulations of starting an independent studio here in Wisconsin. And the biggest thing I've found is that it is really tough times. And I'm speaking more of, these first 2 points are more of things I've noticed recently than things I've noticed throughout our development. The bottom point, I'll kind of start with that one, the rising demands for publishers of young studios. That's happened throughout our short, stay here of, well, I guess we're almost at 2 years or something. But it's always been that they expect quite a bit of us, and Tim even talked about this in his talk where, oh yeah, you can go and add split screen to Screwjumper. They don't care if the engine can handle it or not, So the demands of young publishers or young developers rather, the demands placed on young developers are pretty great, and it's pretty tough. More recently though, I've definitely noticed, although we haven't had to do any layoffs, and we just keep expanding, but I have noticed that it's gotten more difficult to sell. And one could playing devil's advocate, one could just claim, well, that's because Screwjumper didn't do very well. But I really don't think it is based on what talking to other CEOs and things like that. I think it's just people are getting pretty cautious of XBLA. There's a lot of titles out there now. There's like what is there, Narb, 150 or something like that? Somewhere in there. It's in the mid hundreds or some 150, 140, I don't know. That's quite a few titles, and they still don't have like a Netflix-styled ordering system. It's all still alphabetical, and so that means publishers want you to start. We had one publisher that said your title has to be lettered between A and E in the alphabet, otherwise we don't want to do it. So they're getting cautious, and in fact a lot of people are starting to look towards PSN, WeWare, which is fine. We're agile enough to be able to do that, and that's why that's one of the things that I really value about being small. We can quickly say, oh, we're going to do WeWare, whatever the heck it is that comes out tomorrow. We can literally, quite like with Big Rooster being able to recover after 3 days only being out, it's kind of the same. It's like you can just quickly say, oh, this thing came up, great, we're going to do it. Versus my old prior days at Raven or Radical, it's a fairly big organization to try to say we're going to make a massive move in that direction. It takes a while to get those gears turning. So we're able to cope with it, but it's just kind of it just feels like hard times to me in the sense that it definitely was easier in a way to start pitching stuff 2 years ago when I was looking at forming this company. Yeah, it's probably a sign of the economic times. We're kind of in a it's hard to get jobs lately. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm feeling lately. It is looking up though in the sense that more PS3s are selling now than ever before. It looks like that's turning around. Wii is obviously still selling like nuts. As far as software sales, the 360 is doing really, really well. So I don't think it's total despair, but it is important to note that we're in pretty hard times. What have we done because of that, I guess, is the next slide that I had. And basically it's been a focus on quality. This has been my mantra since GDC and even before, is that, and I know that this kind of seems like an obvious thing. Well, you want to release quality products. That's great, and people can have that in their heads and say, yeah, we're going to make the best game ever. But how do you actually implement that? And I took a lot away from, on the last day of GDC, there was a CEO roundtable that had like the CEO of Cryptic, the guy that formed Cryptic, and 3 other studios that I forget the names of now. But that alone was worth the price of admission to GDC, and just talking to all those, obviously Cryptic went on to be really successful, and just hearing sort of the things they went through to make sure that quality was always a focus, and making sure that lead designers and the leads and whoever it is had their eyes on the game and in tune with the game and making sure it's as fun as it can be early on, and making the tough decisions that sometimes you need to make with publishers, and standing firm and saying, no, this isn't going to work, you know, and how do you sort of make your opinion known without making them so upset that they're not going to pay you their next milestone payment. You know, it's a very political thing. But you know, I got a lot out of that, and I think that going forward, it's just a matter of quality, quality, quality. You know, it's just make sure that whatever you release is amazing. And the biggest thing I got out of that CEO roundtable is that your team is the most important part of your company. I mean, it's, you know, you as a you try to get this stuff going, and you're thinking about all these products. You're always thinking about products like, oh, it'll be great to make the next, you know, I'm going to go and make Tony Hawk 52 or Quake 7 or whatever, you know. And but the real important part is, are you having fun as a team together? Are you there when you're there at 10 o'clock at night or whatever? Because, you know, and we're doing what we can with Crunch, and I think the Evil Manatee team has managed to not have too much, but it always happens once in a while. But, you know, is there ever a time when anyone doesn't feel like coming into work? Because, like, I've only had that in my whole career, like, twice, you know, and it's something you got to just keep track of. If anyone's like, you know, you talk to that person or whatever you have to do to make sure that that environment, you're just really having a lot of fun. You know, every Friday we send our builds always on Fridays, and we refuse. Usually that used to mean at certain studios that it actually goes out on Monday, because that way everyone comes in on the weekend. But we actually send them on Friday and then go and celebrate, you know, across the street. So, oh man, I don't know if I have enough energy. All right, developers, PBR, and that's it.